Unfortunately, today we have power outage, but then if it comes back before the end of this lesson, I'll make sure to fuse that in. However, don't forget we are still on beginner's guide for teacher training or student teacher trainees. Now, here are some few tips I have to let you guys know before we move on to today's lesson. So you move to your classroom or you go into your classroom and then you have this huge blackboard, okay? You have to divide the board into equal parts. Most of you realize that teachers will divide the board into 3 equal parts and then they'll start writing from the middle, okay? Now, when you start writing from the middle, let's say you are giving out notes to the student and you start from the middle. When you are done with this session, would you move to the left or the right? That way you confuse the students, okay? If a student is a slow writer, by the time you should finish this side and move to either here or this side, the student will be confused and you see they'll be mixing their notes. And that is why one of the characteristics of a good teacher is to divide your blackboard equally and then start from the left-hand side, you move to the middle and the last part. Now, before you should finish with the last part, I believe by then all students would have also finished with this part. Then you can ask a student to clean this side so that you continue. So please take this tip number 1. When you divide your blackboard into equal parts, always start from the left. Please, always start from the left. Another tip on today's lesson is that as a student teacher trainee, it is very important for you to be mindful of your work output. When we say work output, that's the number of exercises and number of homeworks you give out to students. When you do this, it also builds you. You don't just go out there and become a lazy teacher who would have to wait till your head teacher will say, bring out your exercise so that I'll check your work output. And now you're going to look for one of the best students to just give them exercises at that instant for you to mark. It's not credible, okay? So one method I've adapted over the past years is that if you should find yourself in a large classroom such that the students there are over 80 or let's say 70, you cannot give exercises and ask them to write or let's say give about 10 questions for a class of over 80 students. You are giving over 10 questions. How can you mark? And that is why you realize that you walk into a staff common room and you realize that a lot of books are being piled there. Teachers cannot mark because the number of questions they've issued out to students to work on is loaded. They cannot mark. Imagine you have 80 students times 10 questions. You're going to mark 800 questions and answers. You cannot do that. So the quickest tip and trick is that the lesson plan says after your teaching, if today you are teaching within 60 minutes, that's why the lesson plan has been strategized. Use, let's say, 5 minutes for your introduction, 10 minutes for your body, 15 minutes to ask questions, group them and all of that. When you're done, the lesson plan says always evaluate your students on each topic that you do what? You teach. So if you have 80 students and today we are going to learn lattice method of multiplication, the moment you are done, 80 students, there are many. Just give 2 questions. Just two questions. Okay? Now, when you give 2 questions, trust me, you'll be able to mark at ease without any pressure. Here's one thing. Most of you realize that teachers mark down students who are not able to score all their questions. Okay? When they are done, they just write 0 out of 10. Or 0 out of 5. One thing I've noticed over the years is that when a student gets 0 in his or her book, it kind of kills the students. How do I put it? Is it their effort? Yeah, it kills their effort. So what I normally do is if a student should get 0 out of 10 or 0 out of anything in any mark that I issue, all I do is do your correction. I just write this, do your correction. Simple as that. Okay, do your correction. You see, most often when you write 0 out of 10, 0 out of 5, you realize that these students will be tearing their papers out of their exercise books and homeworks. So please, that's another tip. The last tip is don't forget to give homework. It's very important. Okay, as a student teacher trainee, it's very essential that you fuse your exercises and homeworks as well. But please do not give exercises and refuse to mark. It is very bad. It is very, very bad. Now, moving on to today's lesson, we are going to look at lattice method of multiplication. Today, we are looking at mathematics as a topic, as a course, and then we are going to look at lattice method of multiplication as a topic. Now, when we say lattice method of multiplication, it simply means multiplying numbers with the use of boxes and diagonals. Now, let's say we are teaching this topic in grade 4. Lattice method, we have students are to learn lattice method from upper primary down to JHS, okay? So you can teach this topic from upper primary to JHS. If at the end of this lesson you're able to understand this well, you can use this for your macro teaching or your micro teaching. That is if you're a mathematics major student or whatsoever. But then in the subsequent videos, I'll be covering a lot of topics with regard to English, mathematics, and science. So don't worry, just stay calm. Okay, so we are looking at the lattice method of multiplication. What does it involve? It involves using boxes and diagonals. Not just diagonals, you're also going to use the place values, that is the ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. How are we going to explain or break this down for a student to understand? And that is where the TLM comes in. So as a first teacher preparing to lecture your students, you get to the classroom and then you're holding your TLM. You lift your TLM like this in front of your students, trying to show them something on your TLM. That is an error. You can't do this and teach. Neither can you hold this cardboard and then identify something on the cardboard. So the best thing for you to do is mount your TLM on the blackboard or the marker board, wherever you find yourself in the classroom, and make sure it is clear. But then for the purposes of this video, I'm just going straight to the lesson. Remember in our previous episode, I said that when you are teaching or you are talking to your students, you do not face the marker board. When you do that, you don't have a communication with the students and you don't get to know as to whether they are understanding the topic or not. So, boxes. When we talk of boxes, this is what we are referring to. Okay? This is a box. And we said it also deals with diagonal. So when we say something is diagonal, it's slanted, okay? Anything like this, diagonal. Anything like this is diagonal. But then with this lattice method of multiplying numbers, it says it deals with boxes, diagonals, and then what? Place values. With the place values, we have the ones and tens and hundreds to the last part, okay? Now when you have your box, you're going to divide the box according to the digits the question has been given to you. So let's say in today's lesson, it says we should multiply 32 by 3. Okay? We should multiply 32 by 3. Let's deal with the place value first. This is ones. This is ones. And this is tens. So always the number which is the numbers on your left hand side, which has 2 numbers or 3 numbers, will always come at the top of your boxes. Okay? Now when you draw your box, you only divide your box according to the numbers you are seeing here. So since we have 2 digits here, we are going to divide the boxes into what? 2 equal halves. Please, is that clear? Now, when you divide the box into 2 equal halves, the box or the half on your right takes the ones. Okay? It takes this one. The half on your right takes the ones. So, which is 2. And then the one on your left takes the third one, which is what? 3. So, imagine we had another digit here. That means we would have to divide the boxes into what? 3 equal parts. But let's take it gradually. Let's take it step by step. Okay? Now, once you distribute their place values, the one left outside here comes here. 3. Now, according to the rule of lattice method, it says we should divide the boxes in a diagonal shape. So this is diagonal, and there's another diagonal. One thing you have to take note is if you draw your box and you divide it into 2 equal halves, if you are going this way, please go this way to the end. If it's this way, okay? If it's that way, it should be in line. You don't start like this and then come this way. It's wrong. Because at the end of the day, we are going to be summing up the numbers, and so the lines should also be uniform. So please, if you are going this way, go that way. If you are going this way, also follow that route. But then you don't start like this and then you change it. No. Okay. Now, having understood this, let's start. So 3 multiplied by 2 is what? 6. We know that this is 6, right? But for the purposes of lattice method, it says when you multiply and get a single digit, always attach 0 to it. Okay? Now, 0, 6 is the same as what? 6. But for the purposes, the rule says attach 6 to it. Now, when you attach 0 to it. Now, when you attach 0 to it, like I said earlier on, the one at the latter part becomes what? 1s. And the one in front becomes what? 10s. So when you're writing, of course, the 10s will come first, and then the 1s will be behind. So 0 what? 6. 3 multiplied by 3 is what? 9. The rule of lattice method says if it's a single digit, add 0 to it. So 0, 9. Now we know that the 10s will come first, and then the 1s will be in the second place. Now look carefully. Please look at this stage very carefully. Here, this is how you are going to add. That's why the distribution is very important when it comes to the diagonal distribution. It's very, very important, okay? So every time the rule says the last digit in the box is always constant, whatever digit that is here, even if it is puff puff, drop puff puff here. So the last digit, what are we seeing here? 6. So whether we like it or not, we are going to write 6. But then when we get to the next part, you see it's in line. Okay? It's in line, diagonal. So whatever figure you see here, you have to sum them up. So 0 plus 9 is what? 9. Then when you get to the latter part, the last box again, whatever figure you see there, if only we don't have any carryover, we just write it like that, okay? But then here we have 0, so we have 096. Now 096 is the same as 96. So therefore, 32 multiplied by 3 is equal to 96. If a student writes 32 multiplied by 3 is equal to 096, I mean, that is also right, because 096 is the same as 96. Okay, moving on, let's look at an example, a different example. Let's look at a different example. Now, I'd like to take a number that will get carryovers, okay? So, example 2. 43 multiplied by 4. The first rule says that you draw the box and then you divide according to the numbers you see on your left hand side. How many numbers do we see here? 2. So we are going to divide the boxes into what? 2 equal parts. Now, after dividing the boxes into 2 equal parts, we have to distribute. It says the box on your right takes what? The 1s. This is 1s. And this is what? 10s. Okay. So this is going to be 3, and here is going to be what? 4. Now, when you are done, the figure here, you just bring it here. 4. This is where we are going to divide. In the first example, we went this way with a diagonal line. I want to change it, and we are going to see something. So here and then here. You realize that this diagonal is not working. Okay, it is not working. So for the best thing for you to do always is to go this way and then go that way. This is what we call diagonal. Now 4 multiplied by 3 is what? 12, okay? And the rule says tens should be on top, ones should be down. So tens, so 12, 1, 2. 4 by 4 is what? 16. 1 and what? 6. Now, remember, the rule says, whether we like it or not, the latter part, the number that we see there, it is constant. And so we should bring it here, 2. Diagonal, we have to sum up the numbers we see here. So 1 plus 6 is what? 7. Now, what do we see here? 1. Then you bring your 1. So therefore, 43 multiplied by 4 is equal to 172. Now, I was doing this because I'm using this to tutor, okay? If you are teaching this topic, do not be answering the questions for yourself. 4 multiplied by 4. Blessing will give you the answer. 3 multiplied by 4. Jeffrey will give you the answer. Is that clear? Now, having understood this part, let's look at 3 digits. No, let's look at 2 digits multiplying 2 digits. So, for example, this is example 3, okay? Example 3. 2 digits multiplying 2 digits. Let's go. 33 multiplied by 42. Now we have 2 digits on our left, 2 digits on our right. So what are we going to do? We are going to draw our box, obviously. We still have 2 digits here. It hasn't changed. So we divide the box into what? 2 equal parts. But this time around, look here, look on the board, look very critical. If we distribute the numbers and bring 4 here, what is left? It's left with 2. That means in this particular question, we have to bring another box so that the 2 will also get its own box. Therefore, we have 2 here. Please, if you do not understand anything, feel free to leave your questions in the comment section. And also, the full lesson is always on YouTube. So all you have to do is click on the bio on our TikTok profile. It will take you straight to the YouTube channel, and then you follow the lessons for more details, okay? But then if you are watching this and you're interested, don't forget to hit on the plus sign, hit the like button, and leave us a comment. Thank you very much. So, having distributed this carefully, the next thing for you to do is to bring out your what? Your diagonal lines. Now you have 2 boxes, so when drawing your diagonal lines, be very careful, else it will not be very nice, okay? That's our diagonal lines we have there. Now, 4 multiplied by 3 gives us 12. At this point, I think you've got the concept, so I'm just moving. Another 4 multiplied by 3 gives us what? 12. Now, 2 multiplied by 3. Please, do you understand? 2 multiplied by 3, because this digit is multiplying the whole of this. So 2 multiplied by 3 will give us 6. Remember, you're going to write 0, 6. 2 multiplied by 3 again is going to give us what? 0, 6. Now, during our first example, we had the latter number here, but this time around we have 2 boxes. So among these 2 boxes, the latter number is what? 6. So we are going to write 6. Then look carefully. This is our first diagonal line. So it means 2 plus 0 plus 6. So 2 plus 0 is what? 2 plus 6, 8. The next diagonal line, 1 plus 2 is what? 3. 3 plus 0 is what? 3. Now, the latter number, you just bring it. Since there is no carry forward, you just bring it 1. Then You always have to let your students understand that if your digits are more than 3, you count from behind. So 1, 2, 3, and then you bring your comma. So you have 1,386. Another tip. Most of the students do not really understand English. And so if you use English throughout your lessons, at the end of the day, if you should ask a question or ask the class, do you understand? The class will be like this. They are confused because they don't even understand the English, okay? So most often try to fuse in the local dialect so that they'll be able to understand. And that is why the TLM is very important. The TLM, if they are able to understand whatever you've portrayed on the cardboard, it will stick here. So anytime they forget the picture, they have it, the visuals in their mind, and then it comes back. Good. So now we have 2 digits multiplying 1 digit, 2 digits also multiplying 2 digits. Let's say your lesson is just 60 minutes. I know for subjects like mathematics, English, and science, mostly the duration is 60 minutes, except for other courses. Okay, so you've introduced your lesson, you've given examples. At this stage, you can group them. Students that have understood the concept, you place them in specific groups. Let's say you divide a class into 6 groups. So in this group, 6 groups, if it is only 6 students that understood whatever you taught, you place each of them in a group and let them tutor. Now, in the same class, you have students that are very, very low. It takes time. It's not that they are dull or something, but then it takes time for them to grasp the concept. So you can group those students to in another table and then take your time. By the time you should teach, or by the time you should be able to teach those weak students for them to understand, the leaders you kept in the various groups might have even taught the other students for them to also grasp the concept. Trust me, teaching students mostly works a lot. Okay, now once you're done with the groupings and you've realized that about 70% have been able to achieve whatever you've taught, then you can evaluate your work. Evaluation simply means giving exercise. Always give exercise before you leave the classroom. Please, it's very important. Always give exercises before you leave the classroom. Now, having evaluated your work, don't forget to also do your correction. As a teacher, it's very important for you to do correction. Most often, the students will be copying from their colleagues, and some of them might not even want to give their books out. So it's just very prudent of you to do your correction right after giving exercises or evaluating the students. Yes, and so basically this is part 1 of teaching lattice method. In our subsequent videos, we are going to look at multiplying 3 digits by 3 digits, multiplying 4 digits by 2, in that order. If this is your first time of watching me, my name is Lottie, and I do create educational content for your perusal. You can as well follow us on YouTube at Lottie's Academy and follow us for more tutorials like this. My name has always been Lottie. Please do well to leave your comments or questions via the comment section, and I'll gladly respond to each and every one of you. Until next time I come your way, it is solely bye for now. Peace and love. Shalom. I'm out.